Good morning, everyone. Microphone check, screen check, caffeine check. Looks like everything's working correctly here. All right. Welcome, welcome. Finally, Friday. Before we jump on in, as always, on the left side of the screen there, make sure to read through the Live Trader Morning Prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that is inside there. If you need to read through that with a little bit more time, you can download that PDF right at the top of the Live Trader login screen. But one way or another, make sure to get a hold of it, read through it. That way you're on the same page as everyone else. Hey, Arturo, how's it going? Andre, everyone else, welcome, welcome. Glad to see you, glad to have you. Taking a look at the morning DP levels, make sure to grab those this morning for the big 7 markets that we're taking a look at, as well as just kind of a general overview as far as what we're looking at for today. Now, looking at today, speaking of, and kind of seeing how things have progressed throughout, we have a nice descending bear channel-ish. I mean, if you draw it out far enough, technically it's a wedge, I guess, but it goes miles out there. We also have the potential of a wedge top that's coming into play, but the big thing now that's standing out is this two-legged move to the downside, and that secondary leg being so much larger than the first. A lot of times when you get that situation, this is a 1 or 2 type of response, where you've got this nice strong correction down, and then it follows up with the first leg of the sequence equaling the third leg of the sequence coming in down here. That would put it right at the bottom of the channel in that support zone again, so that would be perfect. As far as the other alternative, we have an overshot on a measured move, which is showing some pretty decent bullishness. If the market responds back up again, then we'll probably see a reversal move to attempt to break out above the highs of 12,900. And what better spot to try to go for than 13,000 is pretty obvious. So we'll have to give it a little bit of time here, but right now we're creating a bit of a wedge, I guess. I don't know. It's just not the greatest looking thing in the world. I've got a nice dip off the divergence for a whack D, but it's early and it's not a 3 press. There's nothing too impressive about it, but it's there. Over on the S&P. S&P is pinging off the top of the channel again. Nice bear bar off of that top. The obvious thing that stands out here is the S&P made a huge new low, and the MACD displayed nothing but undertow the whole way down before reversing back up, that really strong reversal higher. So with buyers slamming the market so aggressively up, a lot of traders are going to be looking for a continuation. And the one concern that I have for this move off the lows is, really, it reversed off of an L2. And a reversal off of the lows on an L2 is not very common. That's either an indication of a very strong move up, or this is going to collapse back down on itself. With a strong move to the upside, buyers will continue holding L1s, L2s, probably not even L3s, given the strength that's going on here. If it starts pulling back too far, we haven't made a new major high. We're hovering at the top of the falling resistance. You can definitely see some problems here if sellers come in too aggressively. We'll see if they want to adjust their approach as the day goes on. As far as gold, push down, tap the bottom of the wedge. It's not really much happening. Gold is just a shell of a market right now. We've got these giant rallies, giant dumps, and then nothing again. And then it just goes sideways. So as it stands, right now, it just seems like it's best to wait for a big pump, and when the big pump happens, go along with it for a little while, and then expect it to reverse. After that, there's not really much else to do. Gold's pretty calm and quiet. On crude oil, strong reversal off the lows. They did end up making that higher low, and this is a great example of what I'm talking about. When we've got that move to the upside, they're holding off of an L5. L5 is the type of reversal that you want to see. That's more usually, at least more frequently, what happens on a low side reversal. So the fact that it's reversing off the lows and breaking up through the top, it makes sense. They're holding an L5. They do have some falling resistance coming into play, but so far it's higher low, lower high. We're just in a wedge. It's not really going one way or another. That yesterday's rally was Iran attacking some ship or something. Oh, it obviously didn't last very long. Went right back down again. It just needs to break out of that and get away from this. Ugh. We'll see. But either way, this rally up, regardless of what it's based on, it's still inside the wedge. So until it gets out of this, we're going to have to approach it as sideways. They're trying to reverse it off the bottom. On the euro, Sellers coming in off the L1, no surprise, rejecting back down towards settlement, but they are holding at a higher low so far. They haven't broken down to a new low. Could just be gearing up for a measured leg, though. Can pretty easily see that measured leg, and that would put it right back down at the bottom again. So right now the euro is just kind of smack in the middle, but they are trying to hold some resistance. There is a bit of an undertow forming, so we've got to be a bit careful. The MACD is displaying some caution. Bitcoin catching a nice pop off the lows there. They didn't make it to 50,000. Man, I really thought they were going to tag 50,000, but ended up rallying back up and pushing in towards 54,000 before stalling out a little bit. And stalling out, really, I mean, it's barely stalling. We've got a nice little channel working its way up. We'll see, as long as it's staying inside here. Ethereum and some of the other cryptos have also caught a big rally to the upside, but some significantly larger than the others. We've got Ethereum, which is stuck at the top of the wedge. It's having a hard time. I mean, we're seeing this more and more recently where a lot of the side markets, the altcoins, etc., are moving a lot. And the big ones are, I mean, they're still moving like 5, 6, 7%. But comparatively, when you look at the smaller ones and they're moving 30 or 40%, there's obviously a big difference. So right now, getting stuck at the wedge, Ethereum being one of the bigger ones, you know, all of that going on, we're running into some trouble up here. Realistically, it would make sense for the buyers to pull back or break out and hit the gas pedal. But if they do that, then they're just going to run into falling resistance again. Just not a whole lot to work with. Now, some of the other cryptos, if we look across the board here, EOS, which is one that I've been a big advocate of for the last few days now, has had a gigantic rally back to the upside. The problem is it's just right back to where it was before. We had this collapse off of the $4.10, $4.20 mark, rolled all the way down, big pullback down to 350, and now it's right back up again. So the concern here is with this move to the upside, are buyers who tried buying in for a continuation move up, are they going to get out at break even? Or is this a sign of perpetual failures from the sellers, which is more along what I'm on the side of? We've got a higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher, all the way, the whole way up. And any time that it did actually make a new low was a minor low and ended up being a trap. So the sellers don't have a whole lot of emphasis. EOS is definitely high on the list. Another one that's of interest is Bitcoin Cash. Not one that you're going to hear me talk about very often. But Bitcoin Cash, the reason why they got slapped back so hard was specifically because when Elon was talking about accepting Bitcoin, he threw darts at Bitcoin Cash saying altcoins aren't basic. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But along the lines of forked coins aren't really going to be worthwhile. Although he did make a mention of Doge. So, you know, there's still that thought. Buy a Tesla with Doge? How cool would that be? So there's a few of them that are catching some really nice rallies to the upside and a few that are lagging behind a little bit. Another one that could definitely be of interest would be Link. That one as well as Litecoin of the larger bunch that's trying to catch back up. I do like Lumens as well, but I would rather see Lumens dip. Give me a nice trap underneath like 36 cents or something like that. All right. Taking a look at the NASDAQ so far with this continuation move to the upside, we had that beautiful bounce off L3, tried rallying back up. It still has not allowed those broken L1s out. It still has not let them out. So even with this high side move, they tried getting it up here, failed. It failed again. This is a concern. There's a lot of shorts that are holding this market down, and there are a lot of longs who are trying to get out of their positions from earlier, and they're just not being let out. If we're able to get a continuation back above 13,400 with some conviction, then we'll probably see another rally back up towards the highs. Maybe even we'll hit 14K. But right now, that's a big barrier. We've got to get through that 13,360s, 370s, and allow those traders to do what they need to do, and then we can gain a bit more info. Right now, we do have that beautiful two-legged correction back off the highs. I mean, it's picture perfect, right down into the L3. Now we've got higher lows, but we're starting to see some of these lower lows. We got to see them come back up. This could be starting a bear trend. Over on the 60-minute chart, obviously we broke out of that range. That's gone. The wedge that was there is also gone, so we can get rid of that. There we go. So one big obvious thing that stands out here on the 60-minute is the 3 tops that missed. This thing looks like a pitchfork just sitting there waiting. It tried going 3 basically lower highs if you assume the closes. It did technically poke above the highs. But as far as the closes go, we've got a lower close. It did go a little bit up there, but it's still below the one over there. This is one of those shady 3 press tops. It is by no means perfect. But if we add a few things to it, like context, there's a few things that help, right? We've got the bulls that are failing to drive back up above. And if we go backward a little bit on the 60-minute chart, the buyers tried rallying it up with a big, strong leg. At the very end of the trend, it usually doesn't stick around very long. We saw the same thing over here, collapse back down. Market collapsed back down in 2 legs. Buyers picked it back up off of the earlier entry defense point. Once they picked it up off of that, they tried rallying to the upside. And this is where the context comes in. They never made a new high. That is a huge clue. They made the high closes. That's it. So the fact that they made, actually, I don't even think they made the high closes. No. So the fact that they didn't hit the high closes, they didn't hit new highs, they missed all of these extremely important things. Seeing them roll back over again, this bear bar is going to shake the rest of the buyers out. The ones that were long thinking, it's just a pullback. It's just a pullback. Oh, okay, never mind. That's where they start jumping ship. And you see this giant roll reversal back to the downside. It doesn't mean that buyers are done buying it. But what it does mean is that they're not interested in buying high. Otherwise, it would have gone further. They're interested in buying lows. What better place to buy on the lows than a previous major swing low? The one would have been here, but remember, it never made a high, so that one doesn't count. It's not that one. This is the last major low. That's the one they trapped. Went back up and made, yet again, another lower high. Big context shift because it broke down again. So sellers are obviously trying to get something going to the downside. The one thing that's helping them is they do have that nice little wedge on the 60-minute chart that's acting as a level of support. That's about it. So, eesh. I mean, honestly, is that nothing more than just a channel? And they just missed the top? Yeah, pretty much.
Honey, I'm leaving.
Give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. So as far as the NASDAQ goes, I mean, we've got this really nice bearish movement to the downside. They obviously missed the channel. That's a little bit of a concern. There's just a lot of weakness going on. And the bulls are trying, but if this starts rolling back over again, then that's just more weakness, begging for a deeper pullback. On the 15-minute perspective, I mean, really, this fits the bill for an almost perfect measured move to the downside. But again, it's that middle leg that extended beyond. You can see they tried right there, but then it went through. And when it goes through, that's usually where it's going to go through about 1.5 times as much. And that's where you'll usually see that third leg down. And this went a little over 1.5 times as much. So it wouldn't be a surprise at all to see another leg to the downside trying to attempt these lows. We'll see. So far, buyers are defending the lows pretty aggressively. On the tick chart side of things, we've got the Asian session, which had a rally up of a little over a deviation before rolling back over and chunking back through the downside. Once it started breaking back down, that obviously had some strength to it. As far as continuation, they had an L2 that broke down into an L1, and then broke down and is now challenging. Wow, the L1 just got obliterated. So the fact that the L1s got slapped right there so aggressively would be a big clue that we might have a chance for a broken L1 reversal back to the upside. So potential support around the 27.75, 712 area. And then just as a side note, today is Friday. My daughter doesn't have school or class or sitter or anything on Friday, so she'll be in the background. Usually means that it's going to be an earlier day. But, I mean, lately the price action's been dying at 10:30 anyway. So just a heads up, if you hear some noise or something going on in the background, it's probably her. S&P on the 15-minute. Nice bull bar up. I wish it wasn't inside all this barbed wire, though. It's a bit of a tough spot. Looking at the 4-hour chart perspective and kind of seeing what's going on from here, we've got... sorry, hang on one second. What's up?
And pink.
And yeah, of course. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. So from the larger perspective on the 4-hour chart, I mean, it's pretty obvious what they're trying to do here. This 12,750 area is still trying to act as a support zone. So buyers coming in off of this 12,750, that's the spot right there. Gold's not looking too great. That channel's looking pretty challenged right now. The low of that previous daily swing was around 680. That was right at the low. Really? So swing long territory, and this is a much larger swing long, just due to the volatility. I mean, what is this thing falling down? 1.5%, 1.6% already. If we move that to ticks, 818 ticks. So with that kind of movement to the downside, it's going to be a lot more on the side of like options, etc. Something to draw the risk down a bit. Because, I mean, realistically, if you're going to be entering, even at the bottom of L1, it's like a 0.25% stop. 0.3 almost. All right. Bulls still creeping back to the upside and trying to drive this market higher. I mean, it's fairly obvious that shorts are stuck at the moment, but I don't want to be a buyer way the heck up here. In my opinion, gold won't go any higher at the moment because the dollar yen and dollar Swiss rallying because the yield's going up. It could definitely be the case. I mean, really... I just have a hard. I mean, we'd have to go to like a 4-hour chart to actually. Nope. To actually even see anything worthwhile. Let me try over here. I mean, just look at this thing. It's not going so well, you know? If anything, it looks like it's picking up speed. So if it does want to drop again, I mean, realistically, a parabolic drop down to like 1300s could be in store. Maybe like not that far, but maybe they've got the channel going. No, chances are they would have gotten it off of this one. So initially it would have been drawn up like a wedge. Probably would have tried to get something going like that, but couldn't quite get it going. I just like keeping an eye on what the patterning at the time would have been. That one didn't fit very well, so probably transition to that one. Let me break back down, create a bit of a wider channel now. Kind of missed there, kind of missed there. So that might adjust the drawing approach to this now. That was... Oh, yeah. And if you get that little bitty swing right there, this one's kind of gross, but the rest of them are almost perfect, and that explains the bounce down here. So, I think we found our channel. I mean, realistically, the way that it's moving down, we've got a nice drive to the downside. We've got that first impulse measured like lower. They followed that up a bit later over here, almost perfectly. And now, we've gone beyond it. So something's changed. And a lot of times, if they're going to expand, they're going to go about 1.5 times. Right? So if we measure that last measured move, 1.5 times is at 1661-ish. Might have one more leg to go. Also, there was a MACD undertow, but that MACD undertow was broken. That alleviates a lot of the pressure now. And now we're actually getting negative divergences, displaying potential more bearishness. So, I don't like gold. Not from the long side yet. It's got some problemos. Crude oil catching a nice lift to the upside. Stock exchange open in about 2 minutes. It was something like that. Kind of messed that one up a little bit, but... So at the moment, the hot spot for bulls are going to be a pullback to the top of L1 and the bottom of L1. That's where a lot of traders are going to be looking to take advantage of those earlier sellers who were short, getting out at break even. Got 1 minute until the open. All right, stock exchange is open. A little bit of a dip to the downside. That would be the zone of interest. I would love to see 1728 or so. Is your clock 1 minute ahead? No, I accidentally posted that in the Discord chat at 9:27 instead of 9:28. That was my fault. Pressing back up towards the top of the wedge. Still no dip back, though. I think the market forgot it was supposed to be open today. Hey, there you go. How's it going, Leslie? Welcome. Was it just on the side? Like it was supposed to be this time? My guess was it was, like I said, it was probably the login thing, but I'm glad we got that taken care of. Still no pullback. NASDAQ continuing to grind these shorts into the ground. Back up to the European session highs. Sellers will be hovering around those 803 quarters, but I don't want to short against this. It seems like that'd be really dumb. Nothing was different. It just worked this time. Oh, yeah, you gotta love tech. Can you show your clock, please? Yeah. I wish there was a better spot for it. Trying to push back to the upside again. Your clock is 1 minute ahead of mine. Make sure that you're looking at the stream in live. If you go to the video itself and hover your mouse over it, where you can see like the play button and all that, to the right it'll say live. If the circle is gray, that means that you're not watching the live stream. You're watching a delay, which might have just been caused by accidentally pausing it or something like that. But the stream delay itself is only like 2 to 3 seconds on average. Sometimes like 4. But not 1 minute. We got most of those problems taken care of. So I would guess that you're probably not watching the actual like live portion. You're probably watching it on like a slight delay because it got paused. Yeah, you can also just refresh the page. So. Testing settlement, not testing the European session lows. We've got to see this dip back down to 27s, 28s. A really fast dip would honestly be good. That would allow a lot of sellers a chance to really quickly jump ship, and then you'll see it V-bottom out and go back up again. Not a thing happening so far today, man. Dead slow start. Crude oil is catching a little bit of a lift back to the upside towards the top of the channel. Is anything moving on crypto? EOS pulling back a little bit. That bear bar on the top's a little bit concerning. That Bitcoin Cash little pennant formation, though, ahead of 500. Hello. That looks real nice. If it succeeds. If it succeeds, it usually follows up with another bull bar just like it went into it. So it'd be like a good $40 pop. Bottom of the channel, continuation back up. Still no chance for the earlier sellers who are stuck down at 75s to get out. A lot of times when you have this movement down that just keeps sticking it to the one side that's just short and wrong, or long and wrong, what you'll end up seeing is a lot of positioning going on around these areas. So L1 got completely obliterated. L2, the sellers showed up, but they were given a chance to get out at break even. Same here. Sellers were given a chance to get in, but were given a chance to get out at break even. L3 was given a chance to get out at break even. Now we're testing it up here, and they're breaking out further. A lot of times what you'll see is if they start pressuring into L4, and maybe even a little bit above it with this continued pressure, the next pullback will usually be like the backside of the L3 and then back up to a new high. And they're pushing into L4s right now. So there is a chance that buyers will be looking for a rotation off of 75 or 60 in those areas for a reversal move back to the upside. Sellers on the short side will be looking at this L4 and attempting to utilize it as a low probability but massive reward versus risk swing to the downside. Because really they're shorting the L4 with a stop just above L4, but the targets are back down to at least L1, if not the lows. So, I mean, you're looking at like a 4, 5, 6 to 1 to the downside. A lot of shorts will take that just because of the reward potential. But understand that because of that reward potential, the probability is going to be terrible. And here we sit and here we wait. It's been a long time since we've seen an open this slow. Well, it's not slow. I mean, it's moving around quite a bit. It's just not moving in a way that I want it to. Bulls continuing to pummel these shorts. First 5-minute bar of the day in terms of the volume node. Now that we've got the first 10 out of the way. Once this shows up. Strong bear bar reversal off the top. Ooh, so we got like a double POC here. 80 is definitely one, but then there's also a very large volume node just above that. At 84.75. I'll make that one a dashed one because it's not the primary, but it is still a zone of interest. I like this 80 quarter area if it wants to dip back a little bit further. A couple different ways to approach this zone, because this could also be a deeper pullback. Notice, remember, they reversed off of an L2. That's not very common. So with this massive move to the upside, you've got an L1, L1. You might just keep getting L1s. But then there's always that next one, which is the TUL2 pattern. And the TUL2 gets that deeper move. So right here at 80 quarter would be the L1 continuation. That would also be the L3, the earlier shorts getting out. But don't be surprised if it wants to dip down to like the 66 point to try to trap below the bottom. All right. Ethereum catching a nice pop to the upside. Bitcoin also catching a nice pop to the upside. NASDAQ dipping back a little bit. This 80 quarter area, this is the zone of interest. Also might be potential for a scalpable zone depending on how much volume comes in off that 80, knowing that we've got 84.75 as a secondary volume node. So there's the singular point of interest at 80 quarter, but there's also potential for shorter term bounces back up inside of like the 90s or so. $73.75 would be the next zone if they are going to take that move. As far as a continuation play back to the upside, realistically, the biggest point of interest is going to be coming back up to 96.75. But if they're able to get a few more, then there's some shallower objectives. Shallower objectives being settlement back at 93. It's tough to want to try to force the market through that area. So depending on the volume, I mean, a lot of traders will potentially just take profit back at settlement again. It's a very common zone. Testing settlement again. Trying to push through. Nice push. There we go. Target filled. Sniping out here. Got 15 minutes until news at 10 o'clock. Or 15 minutes until top of the hour. There's not really... there's not really much else on a Friday typically for news. Fridays are usually like CFTC speculative net position stuff. But today's a little bit different. We do have that federal budget and it's tentative. So, they have it placed after 1 o'clock and usually that's pretty accurate. So hopefully, but there isn't really any news today. Michigan numbers at 10 just like normal. Secondary objectives, the European session lows, it's already kind of right there anyway. I would think that if they're going to go higher, they'll probably try to challenge into like the 813s next. I don't have any more. I only had the one, so. Big continued pop to the upside now. There's the highs. Jeez. And nothing. So we'll just keep waiting. NASDAQ pulling back just a little bit, but still a lot of wicking going on up at the top there. Across the board, crude oil is finding some resistance off the top of the wedge. It's really not much else going on. Ethereum's making a really big attempt to drive through the high. Hi. A lot of volume up here, yeah. There's also a lot of lack of volume. There's a big VVP sitting back at 12,818, just underneath all these wicks. Problem I had was when I logged in from Discord, but after I closed Discord, logged from SSFTG, it was okay. Huh. So you draw the conclusion, yeah. So tomorrow, if you don't mind doing a little bit of troubleshooting for it, because I don't have that problem, so I can't really test it. I don't really have a way to test it. tomorrow, do the same thing. If you don't mind doing some troubleshooting for me, leave Discord open, try to replicate the exact same thing, and see if it causes the same problem. If you're able to. If you remember. I know my memory. I'd forget about it as soon as that sentence was done. Market pulling back a little bit and filling in some of this VVP action in 818. Buyers want to see it support up. Try to get it going. Sorry, yeah, Monday. Today's Friday, whatever. Tomorrow for members, there will be we'll be doing the VIP webinar tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. So yes, there is a webinar tomorrow, but it's specifically for members. So if you're a member, then the link will be in Discord. It's posted in there. I also posted, I'll be posting it again later once I close this room down for members on YouTube, just to make sure that I've got all the bases covered. Yeah, 10 a.m. That one will be on Zoom this time, although my wife was saying that she thinks you can do a stream as unlisted so that, like, I think it was like up to 50 people can watch, which for right now would be okay for like a weekend. Well, I don't know, for a weekend stream, but it's planned to be on Zoom at the moment. That's what the Discord link is, at least. It's not going to be anything crazy. It's not going to be like a hard topic or a hard point or anything like that. Honestly, what I'm going to be doing this time around is I'm just going to be doing some testing, some analyzing, some chart work. And I thought, well, hey, why not leave the door open so if people have questions or just want to hang out and do nothing with me, that they can do that too. Not nothing, but you know what I mean. But there's not really a primary focus outside of just testing and doing some chart analytics on scalping stuff. So. It will be recorded. I'm still not sure how I'm going to post that yet, but it'll be recorded. So if you're not able to attend, you'll still be able to watch it. Seven and a half minutes until the 10 o'clock quote unquote news, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, honey. Seeming like the bulls are trying to create a bit of a flag. If we look at this overall perpetual movement to the upside, we've got an L1, which pulled back into an L1, almost made it down to the L2, right? That's that deeper pullback that you're usually looking for. Pinpointed it on the volume node at 80, continued back up, and now we're looking again. We still have not had that deeper pullback, that L2 pullback. It hasn't happened. Now that's back down at 780 again. Bulls trying to continue back up pretty lazily. Oh, man, the volume is dead, too. NASDAQ's only traded not even 200,000 contracts yet. comparison, yesterday was like, not by this point in time, but by the end of the day, it was at like 1.6 or 1.8 million or something like that. S&P, what you got? Got the first candle of the day in terms of the volume node, which it hasn't gotten away from. It's still stuck on the first 5-minute bar of the day. There are a lot of volume nodes too, which is probably where the confusion's coming from. 13 quarter is the primary volume node. But there is a secondary node at 1475 and a tertiary node at 16. So basically the entire 5-minute range is just one big chunk of volume. NASDAQ continuing to drive further up, but we haven't really had much of a pullback yet. From a value perspective, a value pullback, the largest one, 0.32. So a 0.32 pullback would put price at about 788, 789. If we're looking for a value double, then you've got 6.4, and that's down at 747. Which is significantly more interesting for longs. Ethereum trying to continue the boost to the upside. Bitcoin also following along. Nice momentum. Looking at some of the other cryptos, EOS shutting down that bear bar. That bear bar never triggering is a massive clue. Huge clue that buyers have a shot to come in now. Bitcoin Cash also continuing above that little pennant they were forming. Link is forming a pennant now. And, geez, we are getting some... Lumens are pennanting? Whatever. At around 385. We're really gearing up here. We might be trading crypto tomorrow. Who knows? I know my luck. It's going to do it at 2 in the morning. NASDAQ trying to put some pressure to the downside again after failing at the top. That was... Ooh, they missed the double top by like a tick. Heavy. Honey, be careful with that tape measure. I don't want you to get hurt.
It's almost to the table over there, so I gotta...
Honey. All right, I'm back. Sorry. Going on 10 o'clock, we've got, I mean, there is some news going on at 10 o'clock, but honestly not a whole lot. The way that volume's been today, ooh, man, I think it might be better just to kind of sit on hands and wait until we actually get a decisive breakout. The NASDAQ has its decisive breakout, but now it's just not doing anything. It needs that deeper pullback. The deeper pullback on the NASDAQ at this point in time, at least, to be back to 780 down to potentially 757. Oops. Scalpers may choose to try to get a little bit of a bounce off the lows of the channel around like the 77s or so. But honestly, I'm not really anticipating it being anything too crazy. More likely a short-term bounce before a continuation down. 10 o'clock news. Had a quick little pop to the upside on that 10 o'clock news. And I would love to see just a little bit more of a dip down. You can see they're holding this low of support really nicely, but it's got to go further. Are those L1, L2 levels used publicly available? No, those are part of the Academy. But after doing a bunch of retooling, you'll find a bunch of info on the Academy on the main page. And as far as trading education cost-wise, we've brought it down significantly. One of the big things that, and I'm not a big fan of like shilling or selling stuff too much, but I am really proud of the way that we approach this. The Day Trading Academy itself, if you click on this, it's got a video that you can learn more and gain access. But the cool thing is everything that you pay on the Day Trading Academy, you can use as money off on the VIP if you decide to upgrade. So it's kind of like a win-win. It's really hard to be to be too disappointed by that. But if you want more info, if you click on Learn More and Join, there's a full video that's like 4 or 5 minutes long or something that goes over everything available. They're still trying to get down to the lows here. There's no undertow. There's no... I mean, there's nothing really concerning. Let's see if they can get a little bit of a dive back into the 80s. That's where the zone of interest is. Really weak divergences across the top. Man, I just wanted like a couple more ticks down. Well, a couple more points down. This thing just rocket shipped all the way to the highs. Gone. Now we've got some serious undertow. So with that undertow displaying a bit of a concern, we've got major presses to the highs, and across the entire move, so far at least, the MACD is saying to be a bit cautious. We haven't seen it turn down yet. We would need to see the price turn down in order for that to actually confirm. Wow. What a jump to the upside. So the S&P is getting out of this first zone, which is kind of nice. The NASDAQ is just still going. This is a very strong leg. And this is at the end of, well, not at the end per se, but it's after the trend has been going on for a very long time. Usually this is, more of a sign of exhaustion than continuation. S&P closing a giant bull bar to the upside. Buyers will be trying to come in at 23.25. I think it's a terrible place to be coming in to try to go long. But 23.25 is the area where sellers or buyers will be trying to come in for a point move to the upside. Realistically, I'm not even necessarily expecting those buyers to be filled. So I'm going to look for a fade off of 24, knowing that their targets are at 24.25. So looking for a scalp move back to the downside on the S&P. Off of 24, 25, 26, somewhere up there. Looking for a 1 point or more move to the downside, depending on how many contracts set up. Along with that, as far as a continuation buyers will go, 22.25, I'm not interested in buying 22.25, 21, none of those. But if we can pull back to like 19.25, then you've got my interest. Scalpers have a shot from that point too. Waiting to see if the S&P wants to give a little bit of a dip. 19.25 is the first area of interest for a bounce back up towards 20.25. Not much else is actually happening. It's really slow. Now, the MACD has made a new high. So the fact that the MACD made a new high kind of realigns things back to the upside for the NASDAQ. So if the buyers are going to take it, that undertow is gone now. Unless it just dunks off this. I mean, if it absolutely collapses here, then it's obviously still intact. But this is not a good sign for sellers. I like that area for another. I mean, it's got a potential lift up to like 2175. It's got some room. Tested the entry, but no fill. To the tick, still no fill, still waiting. If this, because it has hit the entry point and I did not get filled, if it does go up towards like 21.25, 21.5, then I have to assume that I missed the trade. There's just nothing I can do about it. There we go. Scalpers will be looking for 1975. Next objective to the upside, 2150 after that. 21 quarter. So the S&P, the only volatility that's really got going on right now is for scalpers. Everything else is just too weak to really want to do anything. Tested the target, but no fill as of yet. Tested again, no fill. There we go. Upside objective next is 21 quarter. Stops at break even, one way or the other. Stop is at 1 point. Made it one tick away from the target. All right, and taken out on the stop on the last portion for a point. Again, it's only scalpers here. Maybe it goes further, maybe it doesn't. I really don't care at this point. I'm not expecting it to go much further. This thing's so slow. All right, sorry about that. NQ pulling back a little. Yeah. I mean, again, this is doing what we expect it to do in the sense of exhaustion. The exhaustion play is working out correctly, but it's failing off the top, and that was the big thing that we need to see. So, I mean, the fact that they're failing off the highs and they're rotating lower, if we start breaking a new low, that potential MACD invalidation becomes a MAC whack, and all of a sudden this thing's starting to chunk to the downside. But remember, the L2 buyers are still going to be waiting. We've got an L1 that started things off, more continuation to another L1, almost L2, that was the dip that we were looking at. Continuation off of another L1, that's the triple. Then you've got the TUL2. L2 is just a little bit further back down, and guess what price it lands on? Back at settlement. Obviously, I would love to see a little bit of a trap underneath some of these previous swings, but if we look at the volume, this could potentially tell us that it wouldn't be unheard of to see it slide down to like the 73s. So the 73s in that area, I'll say 75 to 70, is going to be the hot spot. Oh, man. I don't like that on the 5-minute chart. That's a bit of a bummer. Whenever you have a big, giant bull bar like this, and it's immediately followed up with bear bar, bear bar, bear bar, they're usually going to slide further down. That completely takes away my interest in wanting to be a buyer down here. Now, that's on the first approach. I'll still be interested in being a buyer down here if they can push down and then bounce a little bit and show me there's some proof. Then it's a different story. But right now, this has a chance of deviating down the same size as that bull bar up, which means that there's downside objectives around 28. Did you put makeup on? Hang on. Oh boy. My daughter's makeup is incredibly pretty. I don't know if I can say the same about my bathroom. Oh, man. All right, well, we're getting a little bit closer to 10:30. Honestly, there's not much going on. I've only had, 2 trades? Yeah, which is not typical at all. I'm a little bit more interested in just kind of playing it on the sidelines, leaving an early Friday, and just calling it a day, ending on a positive note. Feel free to get some questions in. We'll hang around for a little while yet, but honestly, I just don't know that it's worth putting any risk on the table with this kind of action. Looking at the numbers for the week, again, what are you doing? Hang on. So as far as the numbers for the week, in terms of the accuracy and all of that fun stuff on my end, sitting at 63.86. So what does that mean? 63.86 minus 100, loss percent 36.14 times an average loss of 125. And then we've got 63.86 times the average win of 88. 56.19 minus 45.1750. Positive 1100. I mean, it's in terms of the numbers. But when you're over in terms of the trader's math, at least for me, everybody's numbers are going to be a little bit different. But for me, if I'm over 1,000 on the week, then it's usually a pretty good week in terms of management. That means that everything was taking place the way that it should have been. But given the numbers, there was obviously a challenging day or two inside of there, which we know was Wednesday. But it shows us that we still have a positive trader's expectancy. Our trader's math is positive, on my end at least. You've got to do your own, obviously, to make sure that you're still trading correctly. But as long as that math comes out in the positive, you know that you were doing things properly the way that you were supposed to. Keep in mind, that number may come in the negative if you had a losing week. Even if you did everything right, if you only had like 2 trades and both of them were losses, those aren't going to help you a whole lot. So I tend to take a lot of trades, so going back a week only means that, it's fairly easy to see the numbers. But if you've only got a few trades a week, you might have to go back a little further. How do you see the ES and the QQQ long term? So as far as the long term, I want to clarify what you mean by long term. Are you talking like a 4-hour chart? Or are you talking like a daily? Like how long term? So remember, I'm typically a scalper. Long to me is like 15 minutes. So I do have on a daily. Okay. So on let me load up that workspace here. Oh, wait, is this a workspace that I haven't fixed yet? I think it's a workspace I haven't fixed yet. Yeah, hang on. I'm going to have to get all of my charts on the main screen here. It's all good. That needed to happen anyway. Hello, Ninja? Come on now. I know the charts are off the screen, and that may be a little bit awkward for you, but I know you can do it. I know you can't see anything. It's just a background. On my other monitors, I've got all these charts that are all over the place. I'm just waiting for it to load up a minute. Outside of the viewable range. Yes, please. Put them all on my primary monitor. I haven't heard you mention them very often, but I know you're in the crypto world quite a bit. Are you a big fan of NFTs? Don't mess with them a whole lot. What's your stance? NFTs, I think, are very interesting, but in the same regard, it feels like NFTs are going to be the next bubble. You know what I mean? Like, there's some issues with NFTs that are very apparent. There are some things that I think by all means will take a mainstay, and I don't think they're going anywhere. The way that they are used might be a little bit different, but my charts are still loading. Like, come on. Gee. So from the NFT perspective, there are a few applications that I use, and I'll cover those. Maybe that would be a good one for like we can do tomorrow on the webinar for members. Can I move my charts yet? Oh, I can move them now. We're making progress. What chart are you? You are Ethereum. Put that one down there. Which one are you? Crude oil. Gold. I'm missing some charts. S&P. Okay, let's try this again. Oh, there's one more. Okay, that's Ethereum. That's crude. gold. That's the S&P. There we go. Okay. So now that I finally made my way to the point of the whole thing here, as far as the Nasdaq goes, I mean, really, this is incredibly overextended. There's a big undertow that's going on, which is a big concern. We've got a lot of divergences coming across the highs, and the last time that we had any type of halfway decent pullback, well, I mean, it's fairly obvious that happened back here in 2020. So if we're looking at it from a value standpoint, the largest pullback since then, 14.3%. This was probably like 12.5 or something like that, 11.5. This most recent pullback was about 12. So from a value perspective, 12%, 12%, we're right around there. That's a nice area for buyers who are still aggressive to be picking the market back up. But the concern is that this gets a larger dip. The pullbacks that are really good, the ones that you really want to pay attention to, the blue light Walmart specials, the 99-cent sales, those types of deals, those are the ones where they're doubling up value. So if we know that the actual pullback value is 14.5, times that by 2. That's the pullback that you really want to pay attention to. And that means that we're looking at about 28 to 30%. So if you want to get in on a value pullback, back to 10K. That's where buyers are going to be coming in on value for the Nasdaq. As far as, where it is now, I mean, realistically, buyers picked up the value pullback and they're trying to hold up. So this could be the start of 2 legs down. This could also be the start of a higher low reversal. It's too congested here to really say or tell which way they're going to go. So as it stands, for me personally, this on the side of options at least is perfect candidate for an iron condor. I'm not expecting it to go anywhere, right? So buy low, sell high, and let it hover in the middle. From a futures standpoint, I really just don't see a whole lot of opportunity other than buying short-term lows, short-term highs, and just staying the heck out of the middle. As far as the S&P goes, the S&P has a similar situation. Let me get rid of these lines here. Get rid of that. The S&P has a similar situation, but in terms of the value pullback, way different. We had that huge reversal, and the largest pullback since then, we had this one, which is about 9%. That was about 10.5%. I mean, that's barely pulled back. So, I mean, from this perspective, a 10% pullback would be around 3,600. Buyers would definitely love to see a 3,600 pullback. But that said, remember those double downs, those values, those big double down plays, that's a 20% pullback. And that one, specifically on the S&P more than anywhere else, is huge. Because look where that lines up. The amount of support and resistance that lines up on that double move down at 20% is incredible. So, I mean, the Nasdaq looks great. Don't get me wrong. I still wouldn't mind buying in on a nice deep dip. But the S&P? Yeah, different story. Where it's going for now, I think sideways to moderately, not even moderately, slightly up is kind of what I'm anticipating. I'm expecting sideways. If it dips, buy the dips, right? I mean, it's a BTFD kind of market. It's not even pulling back 10% for the most part. But when that double down happens, you better believe I'm going to have a big grin on my face. I'm glad I wasn't watching because I would be incredibly frustrated by being missed down here. Yikes. That's a stick your fist through a monitor kind of moment. Going on 10:30. Feel free to get those last questions in. We'll get those covered. Let me check other chat room, see if I've got all those. I think I do. Yeah, no problem. But back to the NFTs while I'm waiting for the last questions to man, I can't speak to save my life. Thank God it's Friday. Last questions to trickle in here. NFTs are... I think they're the way of the future, much like crypto. In the sense that everything we do on a day-to-day basis is basically digital anyway, right? I mean, realistically, throughout the day, at least for me personally, and everyone's going to have a different stance on this, obviously, but for me personally, between trading and gaming with kids, and I mean, like half of my day is online. So for somebody like me who is looking to maybe have like a virtual property or a virtual home, stuff like that, yeah, you better believe I'm going to be looking for that kind of stuff. I think the big next step, and this is something I was thinking back on the way after dropping Gavin off at school, where, 100 years from now, it wouldn't be that unheard of to be hanging out in bed. You just wake up, you take a shower, do your thing, whatever, and then sit in bed, or the bed converts into something else, and you look over at your spouse and you say, hey, I'm going to go to work. And then your eyes go black and you flick a little switch and you're in work. You went to virtual work. I mean, really, is that unheard of? I mean, seriously, I don't think it is. I mean, like 100 years from now, I'm not going to be alive to see it. I wish I was. That'd be cool. But realistically, it's the way of the future. And if we're going to be spending, 100, not even 100 years down the line, hell, half of us do this already, spend more than half of our day in a virtual environment, then why not deck out that virtual environment with virtual art, virtual pieces of furniture, virtual things that you can use inside of that space? Furniture and things like that I don't think are going to be as big of a deal, but things like, let's say, a virtual game that people who are visiting your virtual world could play with you, yeah, of course. You take a break from work, you switch worlds. Right? I mean, the future is going to look, in my opinion at least, so dramatically different with the implications of virtual and blockchain and all of these things that I think NFTs are going to have a permanent place. But I do think that if anything is going to bubble and crash, it's going to be NFTs. Seeing things selling for millions of dollars we don't have the infrastructure to support those kinds of transactions yet. It's when you've got those types of situations where you're spending millions of dollars on these virtual art pieces and things, like, okay, where are you going to put it? Like, that's great, congrats, but we don't have those virtual places, we don't have any of that to display that stuff. So to me it's kind of a sunk cost at the moment. So by no means am I looking to invest thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into NFTs. But making some, utilizing NFT technology, buying virtual properties. One example, actually, let me pull it up real quick. One example of virtual property, hustling, if you will. Let me get the link for you real quick here. Or at least the one that I've been messing around with. Is called... to sign into chat, apparently. Oh, I'm in the wrong window. Whoops. Is that guy right there. It's called Upland. And essentially you go around and you buy properties and you resell properties. I mean, it's literally buying physical properties in the real world. So as an example, I just started not too long ago. So it's not like my person is crazy or anything like that. But as an example, if you zoom in to where my little block explorer is, you'll see all these different properties and different things. And like these in bright green are properties that I discovered, my character, and you can buy them. And it's 17, it's FSA. I can't buy those, but you can buy these properties and you can sell them again. And that's all it comes down to. And eventually, the cool thing, here's the really cool thing about this. Let me go to a property that I actually own real fast so I can show you. Somewhere in here. Properties. There we go. I'll just pick one. I don't care what one. But you can go into the street view and you can actually see like what property you're buying and what houses you're buying. It's not in very many places, but think of the implications of this. Like you go eventually when it's everywhere and you buy your home in the real world, but then you also go out and you buy it in the digital world and you can go and display stuff. I mean, how cool. That's the kind of thing, that's the direction that I think the future in that sense is going to be going. Who's going to build the real things like tools and bread and steel? Machines. Have you seen the inside of a harvester? Humans barely have to do anything in a combine anymore. It's all GPS navigated. It's all automatic. There's a few things, sure, and obviously maintenance because John Deere's a... I do not like John Deere as a company, the way that they do things for maintenance. But, well, they don't. You either buy it from them or you buy a new tractor. But I mean, everything is going automated. I mean, it's the way of the future. Everybody's talking about, oh, machines are taking our jobs and all that. No, they're not. They're taking the jobs that nobody else wants to do in the first place. I don't know about you. I don't want to sit in a steel shop flipping metal. You know what I mean? Like, I'm past that. I don't want to do that no more. What, honey?
I can't come back on your phone.
Oh, hold on. There we go. Now again, this is all totally like off the cuff, throw salt over your shoulder, hypothesis stuff, But in terms of the way that it would operate, honestly, would it be that unheard of given how digital things are? To instead of going to a work site, strapping on your VR headset and controlling your work person. Who needs HR when your robot gets its head taken off? Who cares? Get a new robot. It's not that unheard of. I mean, really, if you think about it. So I still think people will be working in a sense, but they'll be doing it in a totally different approach. That will allow things like, we know how much about the ocean and stuff. We like what 2-3%, being able to do unmanned missions that are actually like commonplace. All of those different things can all be done automated, not right this second, but in the future for sure, via virtual. That's what I'm saying. Like, you turn to your spouse, you say, "Hey, I'm going to work." Click. Eyes go black, and now you're in the bottom of the sea using a harvester for silicon from a mile down. Like it's a totally different scenario. And think about the even bigger implications of that off-world, right? I mean, we're talking like Elon Musk thousands of years down the road. I wish it was 100 years down the road so I could see it, but I mean, being able to man a mining operation with a virtual headset on Earth that's taking place in Mars. Think about it. I mean, it sounds super futuristic, but actually think about the technology that's required for that to happen. We're not that far off. So an application to work instead is now an application to pilot a suit. You have to have training, and it'll be a totally different environment. But I don't think people will stop working. It's just the capacity in which they work and how they work will be drastically different. Just opinion. I'm going to be dead before any of this happens. But if they can freeze me or something and make sure that I'd actually come back alive, I would love to see it. I would love to be mystified by technology. Go like 1,000 years in the future if the planet's still here. Well, sorry, let me scratch. Well, I mean, if the planet's still, if humans are still here, see what it looks like. Bring a cell phone back to the 1600s and then get burned at the stake for being a witch. I mean, there's some limitations, but. All right. Well, we're just kind of shooting the breeze now at this point. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, so that's going to do it. As per the usual, today should be recorded. I think it just gets automatically posted on YouTube, so I think I can kick that out of my normal spiel. But aside from that, if I miss any questions, you can always shoot me an email, jhb@ssftg.com. We will be having a members-only webinar tomorrow via Zoom. So that will be tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Eastern. Saturday morning, 10 o'clock Eastern for you VIPs and members who can make it. I'll see you there. Bring some questions and all of that if you've got some. Otherwise, it's just going to be kind of hanging out with me. I'm not going to be doing any topics specifically. I'm going to be doing a bunch of testing and analytics. That's about it. So I figured why not open the door and let you guys hang out too if you want to. Excuse me. It will be recorded, so you'll be able to watch that back in however that ends up getting posted. I'm still not sure how I'm going to do that yet. But otherwise, that's going to do it. So as we go into the weekend, like we always say, take a break. Get away from the markets. Take a mental break. We make more decisions in a day than most people make in a week. We need our rest. If we don't do our rest on the weekend, we're going to come back on Monday and we're going to get our teeth kicked in. That's how it always happens. So take a break. Do something fun. I know trading is fun. I know we're all addicted. I get it. But we got to have other addictions too. So find something else to do over the weekend. And we'll see you all back on Monday, all right? Talk to y'all later. And for you members, we'll see you on Saturday. And the rest of you, we'll see y'all back on Monday morning. Talk to y'all later. Thanks.